Well, hello and welcome to another episode of the Counter Option Podcast. You have Joe here.
Go Big Red.
You have Tyler here, Boomer Sooner, and special guest Alex Beal here tonight, Rock Shock.
Rock Chalk Jayhawk.
Hell yeah. Well, I'll be honest, this is a late podcast here. We were rushing to get here on time, and I was driving and listening to the Josh Pate show. Did you guys hear that Clemson's filed lawsuit?
With the whole thing?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
It was
no.
like breaking news, kind of.
No, I did not hear that. That's
Lawsuit against ACC.
against the ACC with Florida State. That doesn't shock me. I'm not shocked in the slightest. I mean, I figured they were going to hop in on that lawsuit. I also thought North Carolina would have jumped in by now, but that's just me. What do you think?
Well,
Neil?
I mean, it's dominoes, right?
I already saw a graphic of like where they think all the ACC schools are going to go. It's pretty interesting.
Where's that? I haven't seen that graphic yet.
I think I saw it yesterday somewhere. It might have been from Josh Pate's Instagram. Sorry, I didn't have that prepared tonight. I can't remember. But I saw like NC State, Big 12, a couple
That makes
schools,
sense.
obviously, scattered. Big 12 got the leftovers. It looked like Virginia is a perfect fit for the Big 10 because they're very academic heavy. I remember that. I can't remember the other ones. I guess Clemson would probably try to go to the SEC with Florida State, right?
In the U?
I think
Oh,
the U
gosh,
goes to the Big Ten personally, just because of their footprint. Like I've said before, they've got New York City, they've got Chicago, they got DC, they have Seattle, they have LA. That only makes a whole lot of sense there.
I think I saw the U actually Big 12, and I got excited about it because Tyler knows I'm a big U
He
fan.
loves Miami.
Oh wow, that's
That's a joke. That's a joke.
yeah, of course. We all
No, it's not a joke.
we all
Yeah,
I mean, at some point, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The documentary that they had, it was like one of the first 30 for 30 films. That was one of the best ones.
Oh, with the
It's definitely my favorite.
yeah. There's I listened to Husker Doc talk, and they were talking about going to Miami and playing against Sapp and Ray Lewis, and they're just like, we didn't realize, the kind of speed that they had when they played them, and then they're like, they won that year, and they didn't think they were going to, so that was a big one.
They were playing drunk, they were playing high, and it didn't matter.
Yeah, they would
like,
just
it's
whoop
that much
you.
better. Yeah.
All right, I got it pulled up. This is from 24/7 Sports. So it says projecting college football realignment if ACC collapses. The U is a Big 12. Obviously Notre Dame independent. I don't know why they would put them in there. NC State Big 12, North Carolina SEC, Clemson SEC, Virginia Big 10, Florida State Big 10. I always thought they'd maybe try to go to the SEC. Weren't they the ones that started this whole thing?
Shock me at all. I could see that for football.
Yeah.
Not really basketball heavy on that one, but that one doesn't shock me at all.
Yeah, and then it says Virginia Tech and Duke TBD. Virginia Tech would probably fit right into Big 12, don't you think?
Yeah. They fit into that kind of brand of teams that are there now. I could see them kind of with Utah, and makes sense.
And over the Mountain West, Cal and Cal and Stanford in the ACC, which makes no sense.
Makes no sense. Yeah.
They just end up.
But they were saying that, at Stanford, you can see the Pacific Ocean, but yet thgoing to be in the ACC.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But we're going to start a slew of these kind of guest appearances on here, but you are our first guest on the pod, so welcome. Thank you for popping our cherry. And no better school to bring it out with than KU, right?
Football school. We're a football school now.
Are you worried at all that Lance is going to leave?
They keep giving him a raise every year. On that sheet that you gave me earlier, one of the things was the NIL. And the thing that does worry me is, and again, I'm a big college football fan and ironically a KU fan, which again, most KU fans are the opposite. So I'm going to try not to talk about college basketball on a college football pod, but the NIL, I mean, they have 7 or 8 players on the basketball team right now that make like at least $500,000 each.
Well, I mean, basketball is the primary thing at KU.
Yeah, so that's where all the boosters want the money, right? Because of tradition and all that, and so it kind of scares me that they're not putting all that money into, football. Which again, Lance won't like that, right? But again, Wisconsin, Nebraska, all those schools have been open and he's sticking around at KU. So I don't know.
Well, then the Nebraska one was kind of a shock at some point with everything. Cause he was a assistant there in the 90s under Osborne. So like for him to not go there was kind of a head scratcher at some point, I think for that. I think for him at KU, from everything that I've heard, he wants to build there. He doesn't want to go somewhere else and start over again. Because, I mean, he did well at Buffalo when he was there, and he did well at the other places like Wisconsin Whitewater. I think he won like
5 or 6
national titles. I mean,
was that D2, D3?
D2.
D3.
No, D3.
Okay, but still.
But he's a winner. Everywhere he goes, he wins, and he takes these programs that are not so high on everyone's list, and he does really great there. But for him to stay at KU, it's a huge win for KU, in my opinion.
Huge win.
And you're saying that like there's maybe not as much of a commitment to the football program, but they're upgrading the booth, right?
Yeah, finally. It took forever to do it.
Forever. And so KU's gonna be playing at Arrowhead this year, right? While they go under construction.
They're mixing it up. I think the 2 non-conference games, they're playing actually at the Sporting Kansas City stadium.
Soccer field, okay.
Yeah, the soccer field. I think that's like UNLV and like the Labor Day weekend game, which is probably not even a D1 school. I forgot who it is. But I think all the Big 12
sellout, right?
Right. But the Big 12 ones are all at Arrowhead, from my understanding.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. But again, back to, what you guys were saying earlier, I've heard that he wants to build a KU and stay, but where am I hearing that from? KU fans. So I want to hear Josh Pate say that. Or
Agreed. Which, leads me into kind of that big question of where do you think he would, leave? What school do you think they come through he would go to?
And that's the $1 million question, because he's from Wisconsin. Is his wife from Nebraska? He has another tie to Nebraska besides coaching there. I think his wife might be from there. So, he turned that down, like you just said. I'm shocked that he turned down Wisconsin. I would say Wisconsin's a top 20 job. And he turned it down, I think.
Here's a crazy one.
That was the one I thought, if any, because of his Wisconsin ties, that might be the one that pulled him away.
But here's the crazy one, because we've talked about PJ possibly leaving Minnesota. Do you think he could go to a Minnesota and do the same thing he did at a KU and at a Buffalo?
No, this is a game that my dad and I always used to play. Like name the most random D1 school that no one's talking about. And it would always be like Minnesota, Oregon State, NC State. Minnesota has to be one of the most random schools. Why would he leave to go there? I don't see that, honestly.
But you'd look at it from the academic support with the Big Ten and the pay structure from the TV rights and, NIL, and kind of being in front of the whole SEC Big Ten kind of merger that's probably going to happen at some point. Why not be in that league to have some sort of safety net for yourself?
Sure, but there's going to be because there's going to be so much competition in the Big Ten. Average teams are not going to win as much as they used to, meaning there's going to be probably possibilities of a better team than Minnesota opening up. Again, PJ Fleck? Is that the new?
Yeah. Row the boat.
Again, they were bad. I went to their game, one of their games last year. I was excited about them being good, and they were pretty bad. I mean, it's Wisconsin. It's Wisconsin. Did they already what happens if they open up in 3 years? There's going to be teams like that versus, I think Minnesota's near the bottom of the Big Ten schools. They're above Rutgers, obviously, but
Purdue, Illinois, Indiana.
Yeah, I don't see him leaving for like one of those schools. It has to be a perfect fit because of now that finally they're redoing the stadium and Kansas fans seem to kind of care about football now. So I don't know who that would answer your question.
You think of
Oklahoma State, Tyler?
Yeah.
You think Florida could come in and take him if they fire Billy this year?
Yeah, that's what I would. Those kind of schools. I know he's Midwest, but again, it would have to be
the money.
Yeah, and tradition, fans. Gainesville's a good college town. Someone like that, you nailed it.
But the bigger question on that, though, is would you want to take that Florida job only because of the mess that mess is there? And you have kind of a stable ground where you're at KU right now. And you're honestly, I think you're 1A, 1B, Utah number 1 and KU 1B. I think KU is the second best team in the Big 10 in the Big 12 right now.
Cool. But
opinion, of course.
Yeah, of course. When Jalen Daniels leaves, they're not going to, this upcoming year could be their height, which that does scare me. So I would not turn down Florida to stay at Kansas. I think that would be silly career-wise. Again, he's older, so maybe he just doesn't want to mess with the move, but
possible, sure.
They have good taxes down there too.
Say what you want about Bill Snyder, man, but he had some really, really tough K-State teams.
He could be KU's Bill Snyder.
Yeah, he could.
Yeah, of course he could. And Kleinman's a dang good coach too. So it's kind of funny that they have, the state of Kansas has two of the 3 or 4 or 5 best coaches in the Big 12.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Joe was saying Big 12 wise, I probably put Utah 1, K-State 2. But then KU's probably like right there.
I'm opposite though.
Opposite?
I'm opposite. I got Utah 1. I have KU 2, and then K-State, Oklahoma State, and then Iowa State. That's how I see the Big 12 shaping out right now.
Right now.
But I can't put KU over K-State until we beat them.
It's true.
Yeah.
I don't know when we beat them last.
What I was gonna say, what's Lance's record against them? Has he beat them?
I don't think he's beaten them. Last year was our best chance. It came down to I think we fumbled. We lost by 3 or 4 points. Great game. And then they beat the what out of us in 2022. And all the coaches previous. I can't remember the last time we beat them. It might be 10. Honestly, it might be 10 years.
Yeah. I honestly can't remember either. But the thing is, I'm not thinking of that because KU's kind of done the unthinkable of beating Texas and OU recently. That it's just wow, they didn't do K-State as well. But
it's a rival.
It's a rival.
Those rivalry games are always a toss up. People always play that game a lot differently than what you think it's going to be. So who knows?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Well, speaking of which, so you're saying it didn't happen last year. Let's talk about KU's season last year, because there was a lot of hype after the 22 season. Maybe Leipold's our guy. Daniels, there's a spark there, and then there's this weird. All of a sudden, right before the Texas game, he's not playing.
He got hurt though in 22, did he not?
He did. Bean finished that year, but Daniels did play the bowl game in Memphis. But Bean did play some of the games down the stretch, and they had to convince him to come back last year, which thank God they did, because I think he graduated. I think he's 24 or 25. And I think he got some nice NIL money to stay. But yeah, that was odd. And they played a good first half versus Texas, and then I don't think they scored in the second half. Quinn Ewers had an amazing game.
Yeah, completely average. Anyways, but honestly, if we're talking about KU season last year, I feel like that's a big thing that shadows over that season is like what could have been and like what was going on with that quote unquote injury. Was it an actual injury? Was he sitting out? What's your thoughts on it? What's the rumor mill with Jalen on that?
I do think he was injured. I think it was a back thing that just lingered the whole year. I think because they never, again, if it was, excuse me, a major injury, they would have just yanked. I mean, aren't you allowed to put a red shirt on him?
After games.
Medical.
And I think he only played 4 games last year. I think Texas was like our 5th or 6th game. And they kept saying, hey, he's going to come back. He's going to come back. If you look at, he was Tyler, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't he come in last year as the preseason Big 12 player of the year?
I would have to, he'd probably first team preseason because, Quinn Ewers did not have a great year in 2022.
He did not.
Gabriel, there was a lot of question marks, and then God, who was there before Will Howard at K-State?
That was
it was Will Howard. They replaced him with a freshman, I think.
Adrian Martinez.
Adrian Martinez, yeah.
Okay, so he's gone, and then everybody's they don't know what to think of Will Howard.
Right, but wasn't Will Howard kind of good in 22? though? Didn't he come in?
Yeah, no,
But that's my point. Jalen Daniels was supposed to be better than all these players.
Right.
So he has and he got a lot of money. He got, I think, the most NIL money that Kansas ever given out, which is not saying much, but still, it's progress, right? He has no incentive because he's looking at the NFL, not, just to get drafted. I'm not saying he's going to be a first round pick, but, he's looking to be a drafted quarterback,
shot.
So he has no incentive to sit out if he's not really injured. And that's just my opinion.
Yeah,
no, I agree.
That makes a lot
of sense. I don't think he wanted to put on tape where he looked bad. And so it was one of those lingering injuries, one of those weird back things where it just didn't go away. I mean, that can happen to anybody, I think. I think it happened before the Texas game, on the field.
Well, it was really weird because there was no mention of him being questionable. Was he questionable or doubtful? But it was just all of a sudden not playing. It was what?
Yeah, it was so weird. And Jason, and I remember it was one of the Fox games, and I think, and the reporters didn't know anything yet about it. It was really weird, and I think they announced at halftime that he wasn't going to play.
Jeez, like you said though, KU hung around even without him playing for a half against Texas, and then the depth became an issue. That Texas defensive line worked them.
Yeah, Murphy, and, was it Sweat?
Mm-hmm.
They looked really good this year, and they had a really good year last year too, the 2022 year as well.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, and Bean wasn't practicing with the first team. They just threw him. Hey, let's start. You're going to start now, right before the game. So that's kind of tough. And then they. But he looked okay. But again, like Tyler said, the Texas athleticism caught up with him.
Yeah,
I wasn't mad about that get lost because again, we didn't have Daniels.
Yeah, right. Bean looked a lot better as the year went on, though, without Daniels.
He beat OU. I was there at that game. It was probably the most miserable game I've ever been to. It was 35. It was raining.
Yeah, wasn't there a delay?
Oh yeah, there was a weather delay. There was lightning in the area, I think.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then I got to watch OU lose in person.
Yeah, that was a Devin Neal game.
Yes. Well, I think on OU's opening possession, Gabriel threw a pick six. It was just okay, this is going to be one of those games.
Yeah, that does ring. Yeah, it actually might have been Kobe Bryant.
Mm-hmm.
That was a crazy game.
So let's move ahead to 23 a little bit. Recap that a little bit. It looked like they hadn't improved a lot in certain areas. Would you say with big wins? They beat Texas last year, right?
The year before.
No, we were what we were just talking
22?
about was 23.
Yeah.
In 22, I think they beat them in Austin. Did they?
Did
Not?
they?
Or no. Because they played in
22
Austin
is
last year.
21 they beat them. Remember they threw to like
right.
the tight end and they went for
The
2.
fullback.
Okay. Yeah, I was thinking about that.
And 23, yeah, that was the game we were just talking about.
Okay, gotcha.
It was a little up and down last year, but once Jalen went out, it's like, I mean, what are you gonna do, right? I mean, you gotta obviously you gotta keep playing your games, but like we're now on your backup quarterback. Still have a really great run. You had a great running game.
Yeah, with Neil. Yeah.
It was a 2-back system, right?
Yeah, the other guy is like Kenneth something, I forgot his name, or Daniel Hillshaw or something like that. He's good.
And I love the offensive coordinator. I think is Andy Kotelnicki, who Penn State was able to lure away, unfortunately, from KU. But I thought he did a great job of working with the talent that he had there and kind of doing some window dressing with some motions and things. They could speed things up, they could slow it down, and it gave defenses a lot of fits.
I think they're the most motion heavy offense. I saw that watching one of the games. Now again, that could have been by week 3 or week 9. I don't know, but they, by just watching them, I believe it. They use so much motion in their offense.
What do you think the impact of losing Kotelnicki will be for this year coming up?
I think it will be an impact. I think that guy's awesome. Obviously, that's why Penn State went and got a Kansas. Can you imagine us saying that 3 years ago? Penn State poached a Kansas coach.
Yeah. Never would. No.
Yeah, but they did replace him with a Kansas guy, so I think it's
so they keep continuity.
Yeah, so I do think it will affect them. But by how much, I don't know. We have everyone returning. We have Neil returning. Arnold's returning. Luke Grimm's returning. These are receivers. Obviously, Daniels, hopefully he's healthy. So I'm excited to see what they can do with the new OC. And Lance does a lot of that stuff too.
Jeff Grimes, he's the new OC.
Oh, he was at Baylor. He was at
Baylor. He was at Baylor. Yeah, he was at Baylor.
And BYU.
Yeah. Oh, they're going air raid now. That's what's going to happen. It's like they're going to go air raid with like power run mixed in. That's what they were doing down at Baylor when he was down there. And then he got fired, and I don't understand why. Baylor's just a mess right now too.
Yeah, they are.
I mean,
they have Grimes, and then they promoted their offensive or their QB coach to be the co-offensive coordinator. Lance likes to do that, where he has 2 guys doing the same job.
It keeps continuity in case like one of them ends up getting lured away. It's like, well, we still got this guy here.
Yeah.
But it's great. I think that's great because they're doing that at Nebraska right now too, where they just hired a quarterback coach, made him the co-OC, and they moved Satterfield to tight ends. But they did say that Satterfield would call the plays, so they wanted to move him to a position where he didn't have to focus a lot on working with the players, so he could help game plan, put better schemes in, and get better matchups for the players.
Nice. Yeah. Their other guy is called Jeff, and Jim Zembrowski. He even coached at Whitewater with Lance.
Okay. So these are like guys
and Buffalo. Yeah. So I remember when the guy from Penn State, or the guy left to go to Penn State. I can never say his name, his last name. Yeah. And he immediately said he's promoting people within. And then I think a couple weeks later, they got Grimes from Baylor. I think that's right.
I know that on that Oklahoma Breakdown podcast I listened to, Gabe Eichert, he's offensive lineman, he loves Jeff Grimes. He thinks that he runs like a lot of zone running.
Yeah, but he's a former O-line coach, so
yeah.
He's real heavy into like the power zone game, and it'll be interesting really to see how that translates to KU this year, only because it's something completely different than what you've seen in the past.
Sure. But if you can get it going, which Jeff Grimes has shown that he could, you have a strong running game, you have a strong defense, it's hard to lose games. And I mean, that's kind of what you taught us. That's what K-State does. And so it's like, well, if we're gonna beat the best in the Big 12, I guess they're gonna try doing the same thing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
What were some big losses that you thought KU could get back throughout that whole thing that maybe wouldn't have impacted this season so much?
Are you talking about 2023, like teams we
2023,
lost?
Yeah.
Are you talking about like games? Yeah, I mean the K-State loss was. I thought this would be the year that we'd beat them. I remember that was. I think I was in Kansas City. And I was watching with my family. Yeah. And it was so close. And then there was a fumble at the end. And I think by that point, they still had a chance to maybe be like second in the Big 12. And that would have been huge for us because then we only had Cincinnati after and we beat the, out of them. So that was a really bad loss, rivalry loss also. It was so close. We only lost by 3 or 4 points. And it really came down to last possession.
The losses that you lost to Oklahoma State by a touchdown.
Yeah, that was a bad one too. There's a really, really, really bad call in the fourth quarter. One of their players was offsides.
Oklahoma State last year.
Yeah, one of their players was like offsides and sacked Bean, and they thought they called the play dead, and they didn't. And he was just a sack, and it was a big third down play. And I was so pissed. I probably even texted you, Tyler.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, we were probably going off on that podunk school in Stillwater.
Yeah, we were both mad about that.
They paid the refs last year. Let me tell you, the Bedlam game. We'll get to it at some point, but when you're tackling a receiver in the end zone and there's no defensive pass interference,
yeah, that
was insane. That was bad. But every game was close. Besides they were in every game besides the second half versus Texas. And
right.
As a KU football fan, I am not spoiled. I was very satisfied. Even the close losses, I was mad, of course. I want to win, but I was like, okay. I mean, we're in the game.
You have reasonable
because the year
expectations.
Right. Because the year before we started off like 5-6-0, and I think we lost like every game down the stretch besides one. We were ranked in 22 for a little bit, and for the first time since Mangino, I think. Yeah. And then this year, like, hey, like let's make another bowl game and see what happens. And I kind of think that's how we're going to approach it this year a little more. Like, hey, we won 8 games this year. Can we win 9? And maybe be top 2 team in the Big 12? I don't know.
Do you think 10, 11 is out of the question this year for them?
They have the talent. Again, the OC losing the OC scares me a little bit because of just how good their offense was last year and how connected they were. But I don't know if Arizona State's supposed to be good this year. I don't know how BYU is. They play Colorado later in the year. Are they going to be better? Colorado later in the year, Sanders going to be, or is he going to, opt out and try to go pro?
Colorado last year.
I don't think Colorado is going to be much different from last year. Only because they're only taking these transfers. They're bringing them in every year. They're not taking anybody from the state to play there. Right. So
no pride, no culture.
Yeah. There's no culture there. Like if you're going to say, come play here for Prime, my response is why? Give me an exact reason why. Yes, you have Travis Hunter. Yes, you have Shador. Yes, you have those great receivers that came with you, but your defense is garbage. It's not good. I don't think it was good at all.
No, it wasn't.
That's terrible. I mean, Colorado State almost beat them. Remember that week 2 game? And everyone's like, oh, it's so excited.
Yeah. Well, okay. Tyler and I actually talked about that.
We were talking back and forth while that game was on.
We talked about that. What happened is Nebraska gave them the cheat code the week before. We ran out of gas and we gave up so many turnovers because of our quarterback being garbage in that game. Had we not done that, we probably would have beaten them. They put so much pressure on Shador in that game, and he was rattled for the first half. For basically 3 quarters. They ran out of steam in the fourth quarter, and then they just got blown out. Colorado State took that game plan for full 4 quarters and showed everybody how to beat them. That's exactly what happened. And we talked about that multiple times, I think.
Oh yeah, throughout the year.
Yeah, throughout the year is what happened.
After they lose to USC, after they get throttled by Oregon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oregon throttled a lot of teams, though. It wasn't just one or two. They put a stomping on a few teams, and you're just like, oh God.
They lost to Stanford on a Friday. And again, I cheer for
that. Yeah.
I cheer for
They
the
were
Buffaloes
kicking the
because
crap out of them. I turned that game off on a Thursday night because it was like they were up by like 5 touchdowns going into halftime, and I turned on SportsCenter the next day and they lost by a touchdown in overtime. I was like, what is going on?
Isn't that like the game where the Stanford receiver came out just like a star was born kind of thing? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Forget what his name.
Yeah, I did the same thing though. We turn it off because my fiance works at CU, so we watch them. We cheer for him, and we turn it off at halftime.
Yeah, I turned it off at halftime, and then I was like, "Whoa, what the heck happened there?"
Yeah, he really. Yeah, I don't know how good of a coach he is, but back to the KU part, right? Where it's weird that these new teams are in it. I'm not used to. I used to be able to be like, okay,
new. It's like an old foe.
Yeah, but you know what I mean, like Houston.
But how does that feel? Like, because that's weird, right? Because like Colorado's been gone for 10 years, and all of a sudden they're back.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of I'm glad. I think they're I like how their new commissioner was being Big 12 one is being proactive and not reactive.
I hate
the transfer portal. It's a numbers game. Go out and get whoever, go get San Diego State next year. Go get Boise State. Who cares?
Those would be solid gets.
Boise State would be a really good get there.
Memphis, you know, it's funny. I spoke to someone about this like a couple of weeks ago, actually. When KU just lost to Cincinnati in the Big 12 tournament. So I was talking to one of my KU buddies. And how lucky is it that Cincinnati was good at football for 3 years?
Yeah,
and they got invited to the Big 12.
Yeah, they lucked out.
Yeah. Memphis is always pretty good. And no one's even trying to be like, oh, yeah, let's invite them, let alone those 2 other teams I just told you. But like Cincinnati got so lucky that they made the playoff that one year.
I was like, oh, it was just Luke Fickell.
Yeah. No, it was just Sauce Gardner.
Sauce.
Ritter was pretty good there too, though.
He was a solid team. It was a great team.
That team was. You look at that team like top to bottom, and you're just like, it reminded me of the Michigan team this year in a way, just because they all had come in together and they all kind of gelled and became a cohesive team at one time. They didn't have the caliber of players that Michigan had, but it still reminded you of, a hungry team trying to get out there and win and make a mark for themselves.
3 or 4 of their secondary players of that Cincinnati team that made the playoff got drafted, and they all start still. Sauce Gardner, Brian Cook plays for the Chiefs, and I think another guy is also named Kobe Bryant. He got drafted by Seattle. He's a corner. He's pretty good. So again, they Ritter sucks in the NFL, but they put out some good players in the NFL. That was a really good team.
They had Jerome Ford on that team too.
Oh, the running back?
Yeah, Jerome Ford was on that team.
Wow, I didn't know that's where he went. Wow.
Yeah, he went to Cincinnati, and also like you'd say that about Ritter not being great in the NFL. We also don't know because he had a head coach that had no idea how to use a Drake London, Kyle Pitts, or even a Bijan. So yeah, we don't. This for me, it's still out there. I mean, I think he just got traded to Seattle or something like that. That's an interesting spot for him because you get the DK Metcalf, the JSN, and Tyler Lockett, and you have Kenneth Walker at running back. That's some pretty good weapons to have around you to get a trade. Yeah. But you're gonna have to sit behind Geno for another year, and I don't know how that's gonna go. But again,
I think he got traded to Arizona.
Was it
Arizona? Seattle got someone like a Ritter, I think, to back up Geno, and people are like, oh, like can he start? I forgot who they got, but yeah, Ritter went to Arizona. Right, they just got rid of him.
You're right. Yeah, they just dumped him. They didn't want him anymore, and I don't understand that. I thought he had potential to possibly bloom into something there, but
yeah, he was good, man. He was good in college.
There was ice water running through those veins in college. He could play ball, and I think his record in like big games was he maybe lost 3 games, and you can't say that about a lot of those guys coming out.
And they didn't embarrass themselves, right? In the play, I mean, they didn't look like
they played
TCU
tough.
in the title game.
Right.
No,
yeah.
they hung in there. I don't remember who they played, but they hung in there, and I think they got beat by 10 points, 10 or 14 on that, which is still.
They play Bama or Georgia.
I think they
can't
played.
remember.
I'm pulling it up.
It might be Georgia, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
Yeah, they didn't embarrass themselves, and I was cheering for them just because I thought it'd be hilarious. Yeah, I don't think they lost. I mean, TCU embarrassed themselves.
Oh yeah,
they did. Oh yeah, it was 27-6.
Yeah, they just couldn't score. Yeah, they just couldn't score. I remember that.
But like competitively on the field, they didn't look like they were overmatched.
And if your defense is on the field the whole game, they're going to end up giving it points too.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and that Georgia, defense, it was the best college football defense ever, right?
It was Bama.
Oh, it was Bama? Okay.
But I mean, obviously Bama ends up going to play in the championship against Georgia. So, I mean,
right. Yeah, I couldn't remember which one they lost to.
Surprise Cincinnati podcast.
Yeah, I mean, Kelsey went there. I'm from Kansas City, and I cheer for the Jayhawks. So there's the connection.
That's the connection. And Butch Jones, right? We love him too.
Yeah.
And Brian Kelly.
Oh yeah, Brian.
Yeah.
And Tommy Tuberville.
Was he there?
Yes, he was.
Before or after
God.
Auburn?
I think it was after Auburn. He got
After Auburn?
Yeah, he got fired from Auburn.
Because he was at Texas Tech for a bit too.
Yeah, he was at. Trust me.
So he likes those
Tuberville
teams
was
with black and red color scheme. Okay.
Yeah, now you're talking about a senator, buddy.
Everybody needs to calm down. He's gonna have a hit put on us. So 2023, I feel like all things considered, KU did well even without Jalen there. And we're thinking 2024. I mean, what's your expectation for 2024 with KU?
I want to do as good as we did last year.
9 or 10 wins.
Yeah, so I think we won 8 last year.
9-4 with the bowl.
With the bowl, okay, yeah, okay, with the bowl, yeah. I never know if they count that or not. I think not 8-9 wins, I would be satisfied. Again, we play Illinois. I don't know if they're supposed to be good. I don't think so.
No.
Is Bielema still there?
Bielema is there, but no, they will not.
Okay.
They're losing their big nose tackle in Jerzon Newton this year, so I don't know if they got somebody playing behind him that can fill that spot. But defensively, they're always sound, but offensively, they are not good. So there's a challenge there, but I think KU can win that game.
Well,
okay, it's in Champaign, I think.
Oh, it's in Champaign. You're right.
Then they played some of these new schools that I'm not as familiar with. Again, I love college football.
Your rematch with UNLV, your bowl opponent.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So are they? Well, I don't know what they're doing. I don't know how they're going to be. But again, 8-9 wins, I'd be happy. But I would be kind of disappointed if they didn't win 8 games.
I think so. Honestly, I want to. Let's see what Vegas says.
Yeah, I'd be really. I bet it's. Hold on. Let me guess. I'm good at this.
Take a guess, yeah.
It's my favorite game that we just started.
Is it 8? Is it going to be 8?
I'm going to say 9.5.
I'm kind of always pessimistic too, so that makes sense.
But I think 9.5. They won 9. I think they can go up from there.
Let's see here.
If they say 7.5, I'm calling Vegas and telling them they're wrong.
I'm going to go 8.5 then.
Well, their odds to make the playoff is plus 20,000, which I don't know what that means.
Okay, Tyler, move on.
Here, Kansas Jayhawk odds, college football. Brought to you by somebody that's not giving us any money, so we're not going to tell you about them.
So I'm looking at the schedule, like at Baylor, probably a loss. At BYU, that's always tough.
You think that Baylor game's going to be a loss? Because I don't. I think Aranda is going to get fired this year.
I think he's on his way out.
I don't think they lose to Baylor.
For some reason, I still think, again, they're a mess, right? I still think he's a good coach. Is it just because of that 1 year he was so good? That could be just implanted in me where I'm like, oh my God, they're like so good.
He had Matt Rule recruit.
He had rules players, yeah.
He had Petrie that 1 year, and he had Thornton. He had all those guys that had speed. They were all track runners, and he did a lot in track, and they just they overperformed that year. That Baylor
they really did.
We're really seeing what Baylor is now. I mean, I don't know what his staff is like. I don't know what their regimen is, but I don't think they're going to beat KU this year.
It's the last game, so that hope maybe from what you're, predicting, maybe he's not there anymore. So that would be going KU's favor. But those are, again, I'm a KU fan. Those are games we just lose. We lost to Texas Tech last year. We lose to besides Texas, right, Tyler? We lose to the other Texas schools.
But Tech is
okay. I found it, by the way.
Tech is a really good coached football team, though. That's the other thing that people don't give Joey McGuire enough credit for, is he does coach that team hard, and he does do a really good job against teams that you wouldn't think he'd beat.
Was he Rule's OC?
He worked for Rule.
Okay.
And his son Garrett is the wide receiver coach in Lincoln right now,
Okay.
but there's just something inside of me that just says that Texas Tech could be a giant this year in the Big 12 that nobody ever expected to do
They
well.
have a tendency of just sneaking up. They do. Vegas has KU at 8.5.
Yeah. So I wouldn't put money on the over, but again, that's just me. I don't want to, because like I said earlier, if they win 8 games, I'm okay with that.
What are you talking about? We're slamming the over.
You guys can.
Over, dude. I'm taking playoff odds. I'm taking a futures bet on that one.
Yeah, I mean, who are the? So you said earlier, Utah, obviously K-State.
Utah and K-State are the only other teams that have better odds to win the Big 12 than KU.
So who's fourth? Tech or Houston or?
Let me see here. Iowa State, I think.
I don't think.
Iowa State.
I don't think Houston's going to be a thing for at least 2 years.
Right.
I think Willie's going to get that thing turned around and do really well there, but I don't think it's going to be for another couple years. By year 3, that's when you're going to start to say they're creeping up to 4, maybe 5 in the Big 12.
Yeah, I don't know where I had that article pulled up with all the odds, but yeah, KU was third, and I think, like I said, I think Iowa State was fourth, which makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes
And
sense.
after that, it gets murky in the Big 12 because you have Oklahoma State, like you said, you have Texas Tech. Does BYU get better?
I still like that BYU coach. They played tough for him. He's been there for 7 or 8 years. And they're good almost. They're good every other year. I think they were bad last year. It means they're going to be good this year. I mean, it's literally almost every other year where they're like, oh, BYU's 14th in the nation. And then the next year they're bad.
Nobody's talking about TCU either.
It's true.
And that's a team that went to the national championship just 2 years ago. So Sonny Cumbie's not Sonny Cumbie. Sonny Dykes
Yeah.
is a great offensive mind and obviously has shown that he can do it. I would not be surprised if TCU gets it going again.
Would you say that they suffered a little bit more from losing Garrett Riley than people thought as the OC there? I mean, they didn't look the same. That's for sure.
But
they
then he didn't do
overachieved
so hot at
though.
Clemson either, though.
He didn't at the beginning of the year, but towards the end of the year, they started looking a lot better with Klubnik, I think his name was. But
was Klubnik a freshman or sophomore? Yeah, he's young.
He's young. He is young.
He's young, but I don't know. He started looking pretty good.
Was Chandler Morris the other guy?
That at TCU, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and his dad,
Chad Morris.
Was he a coach at TCU at the time? I don't know where he is now. He's at Auburn.
He was Clemson's OC back in the day when Deshaun Watson was there, and that's when they had their big climb. And then he took the Arkansas head coaching job and failed miserably, which
it's a hard spot to win right now.
It is, but what Sam, what's his last name?
Preston.
Pittman.
Yeah, Sam Pittman.
Yeah, sorry.
He's doing a decent job there, but it's just a tough spot.
They were bad last year, though.
They were, but it's a tough spot to recruit to. I mean, it's like going to Columbia, Missouri, and being Missouri and going to get a 5-star kid. You're not going to do that. It's just,
yeah, but how is K-State good every year?
It's true.
You're right on that end. I just think they have a better culture, than Mizzou or an Arkansas does. If you instill that culture of just hard work and, just putting your fist in the dirt and taking every rep at a time to the best of your capabilities, it's only going to thrive. People are only going to thrive in that, I think. Because if you coddle them, they're just going to sit there and not take it serious. You make them take it serious. That's how you're going to find out someone's true potential.
And I actually disagree with you. I actually think Arkansas is a good school to recruit to. It's the only big school in their state. And Fayetteville is a fun college town. And it's close to Texas. Not
got Arkansas State there too, though, and they do a pretty good job every year.
Yeah, I know. They do state, but it's not the same.
I agree.
In Arkansas's rivals, who you got, like Missouri and LSU, and both of those usually end up beating them. And now you have Texas rejoining them.
Yeah.
And they're going to have their way with Arkansas.
There, yeah.
If it's not like recruiting to Starkville or something.
Stark Vegas, baby.
Yeah.
Fuck Brandon Walker.
Yeah, fuck him.
So you were saying this seems like it might be the height of KU at the moment, but let's talk about portal additions and recruiting. Like, did any big names there?
They got a couple 4-stars. Not trans. So 2023 and 2022, but obviously that was early with Lance because he got hired so late. They did a really good job. He did a really good job of getting the transfers, and that's how they built it so quickly. I mean, this is such a quick job that he did. It's incredible.
He found the transfers that fit his mold, though.
Yes,
and he started players young too, because I think Jalen was a freshman, and he was just like, you know what, these are the guys of the future. We're just going to play them all now and get them the reps that they need.
Right. And they were okay on the transfer rankings. I think they were top 50, which again is good for KU. Right. But still like 60s and 70s. And I think maybe even worse the first year, the commitment of the freshmen coming in, but this year they're better. I think they have a top 50 class, they're getting guys from Texas, which is always good. A couple 4-stars. They got this kid
excited about.
Yeah, there's one. And again, I haven't done that much research because it's still, early. But they got this guy named Dak Brinkley, and he chose KU over Texas and Texas A&M. He's a 4-star end. He's a little small, 6'3". I think. Gosh, I don't know how much. I know he's kind of small. He went to Katy High School, which is a huge high school down there in Texas. Okay. Yeah. So again, they're getting players like that. You got to start somewhere. 4-star. He picked KU. I don't know why. I don't know anything about the NIL. But on the other,
it speaks to what Lance is building.
Yeah, and I think opportunity there too. I think
you nailed it.
Opportunity to play earlier than you would at a Texas.
Yeah,
is what I would say there.
This is stuff that never happened. I mean, Tyler,
Right. Yeah, we got Kerry Meyer, all right?
Yeah.
That was the player that we were talking about earlier. He started out as a quarterback, ended up being a receiver, but just
Wasn't that Rick Meyer's son?
Rick Meyer?
Yeah, the old Notre Dame quarterback. He was Charlie Weiss's OC for a while over at KU.
I don't know if they spelled their name the same way, do they?
I know he had the long blonde hair, and his brother played at K-State.
Yeah,
right?
his brother was also a quarterback, right?
I think so. But
I don't think they're related. I think they spell it differently. Yeah, those are my teams, man.
The glory days.
Yeah, but he's done a better job of recruiting, Lance. I think that, like I said earlier, I think they're in the 40s of their class, which is good for KU.
Well,
and they have a couple 4-stars.
He can develop. So if he's getting even better talent, imagine what he can do if he can end up developing them like he does the 2 stars, the 3 stars.
It also helps that he's winning.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. He's making KU relevant, and outside of Mangino, they didn't have that for the longest time.
Right. Yeah.
You'd go and get the 2 to 3 star kids, and they'd leave like a 1 star. They were never like Tyler said, he would develop them. He develops them, but they weren't developing anybody for a very long time.
Beatty or Turner Gill. Yeah, there's some dark years there.
I don't think they gave Turner enough time, though. Honestly,
you think Turner deserved another couple of years?
I think they should have given him 1 more. I think they cut it a little too. But again, you're talking to a Nebraska fan, and that's a Nebraska quarterback legend, So like, I think Turner was a better coach than the opportunity that they kind of gave him. They pulled the plug pretty quick.
I mean,
that's my opinion, of course.
I just knew that there was a slew, and then somewhere in there you had Charlie.
Were you guys there?
Charlie Weiss is like, okay.
Yeah, Charlie Weiss was there for what, 4 years? I just think they paid him so much money, and his buyout was so high.
He was there to collect the check.
Yeah, and that they couldn't move on from him until that buyout dropped a little bit.
Yeah. But okay. Well, Beal, you were saying Kobe Bryant had that interception against OU. Is he your favorite KU player right now?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm a huge Kobe fan, and he spells it the wrong way, but yeah, he's good. We have 2 really good corners. Blanking on the other dude's name. I was just trying to think of it.
Is the new era of Aqib Talib and Chris Harris? Yeah.
Gosh, I forgot. They both should have been all Big 12, but obviously I'm a little biased. Gosh, I'm blanking on this other guy's name. But yeah, he's definitely my favorite player. He's really good.
Favorite KU football player all time?
Or do your Mount Rushmore, one of the 2.
Yeah, do Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, do your Mount Rushmore.
Players. So it's probably all going to be from the Orange Bowl team. My dad actually went with his dad to the 69 Orange Bowl, or 68, 69, and we never went to the Orange Bowl until 08, 07, 08. So my dad took me. So I was at the game. It was actually in Miami. So all the players in my team. Yeah, all the players are going to be, all 4 of them are going to be on that team. I mean, you have to put Todd Reesing there, Aqib Talib. Daryl Stuckey was a safety, actually played in the NFL for a long time, and now he's back coaching, I think he was helping recruit. He was working with Les Miles. I don't know if he's still working with Lance.
Oh, we've
Daryl Stuckey. Les Miles was there too, Jesus.
Yeah. And my guy, Brandon McAnderson, he was our running back that year. He had like 1,300 yards, huge guy. So Brandon McAnderson, Aqib Talib, Todd Reesing, Daryl Stuckey. That's probably my 4. All on that team.
Well, what 5 players do you think offensively need to have a big spring there to help get to that 8.5 win total or even more?
I would say both receivers, Lawrence Arnold and Quinn Skinner. They're both coming back, and Luke Grimm's coming back too. But I would like them to develop into like a Desmond Briscoe, who we used to have. He was a KU player, had 1,000 yards with Reesing.
I was going to say he was there with Reesing, right?
Yeah, he stayed He was a little younger than Reason. I think he played maybe 1 year after Reason. He got drafted. But probably Arnold and Skinner, I would like them to kind of develop into more consistent wide receivers for Daniels. And they were good. They were good players with Bean. So again, I'm pretty optimistic that they will develop well. They're older though, so I don't know any of the young ones, honestly.
How about defense?
I mean, those two corners, I'm blanking on the other guy's name. We lost Kenny Logan. He was like our leader. He's our safety. So I would like to see someone kind of take that role and, of just kind of being the leader. I don't think the two corners that I listed earlier are going to be those guys.
You don't think Brian can do it?
I kind of know his personality. Just, I don't think he's going to be one of those guys that's going to be like a leader. Kenny Logan was a player that with less, and then they kept him. He stayed to be with Lance, and he was amazing. He's our leading tackler, I think, last 2 years, and he left.
Is it Demarius McGee? Is he the other corner opposite of Kobe?
I think that I thought it was Mello Dotson. Actually, no, Mello Dotson.
Oh, Mello Dotson. Okay.
Yeah, he's good. Him and Kobe Bryant are good.
Yeah. Okay. Both corners will be seniors. Ooh. Senior leadership there.
Yeah.
Who did they have behind
both safeties too?
Who do they have behind those two corners in case one of them goes down that could step into that position and play almost to the same, level as those two?
They lost another corner. So that's a good question. I mean, I'm hoping that one of the younger guys can step up, someone that I don't know their name. They had another guy that played a lot. Lassiter or something like that.
That sounds right.
And he was good too. He was a senior. Now, again, when they say senior on here, I never know if that means they're coming back or not because of the COVID. Yeah. So he could be coming back. He was good too. I remember he had I think 1 or 2 interceptions. But that also could have been 2 years ago. But we're young. They're still a young team.
Yeah. I mean, that's the best way to start after losing all those guys that, you kind of had around for a little bit.
I mean, and that's kind of where the room for improvement is, right? For KU is like offensively, they could run the ball. They could throw the ball even. It's like defensively, if that could come around, everything could kind of line up to maybe make a run for the Big 12 next year.
Yeah, their defense was so inconsistent in 22. Mm-hmm. They would either get torched or play a good game. They played Iowa State really well, I think, in 22. And last year they were a little more consistent. They weren't great. They still gave up a lot of points to, Dylan Gabriel.
They still beat him.
Right. Or Will Howard, honestly. I would like to see more consistency there. Their leading sack guy's coming back, Austin Booker. He was young. I think he was a sophomore last year, so he's coming back. He's a defensive lineman, so they're young. To answer your question earlier, they're still young, and hopefully some of these younger guys that I'm not quite as familiar with step up. They still have the same defensive coordinator.
Do you think Lance might find a way to put one of those young guys at a nickel that he might think would, blossom into being behind a Kobe, or I forgot the other guy we're talking about. So.
Yeah, Mello. I think so. Yeah, I have faith that he can do it.
I think that would be a smart move.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
Because you might want to move, like if Lassiter does come back, you may want to look at moving him to safety just to have experience back there. He could be that leader of that defense on that, being back there. But I think you got to play a young guy at your nickel this year, but we're not football coaches.
Right.
Right. And I don't think last year is coming back. I think he is a senior, and I think I remember that. But they have 3 good corners.
Looking through the depth chart there's a lot of seniors on that team. So, I mean, honestly, there's reason to be concerned, like, in the future, but for next
But that's why I
season.
said that earlier, right?
Right,
Again,
yeah.
that's what scares me, because those two corners are, I guess, gonna be their last year.
The safety.
Arnold, yeah, we lost Logan, but Daniels, if he has a good year, can he? I don't know what you guys think. Could he go pro after this year? And is that crazy to say?
It depends on probably where his draft stock is. If it doesn't make more sense to come back to KU and make more NIL money, or is he going to be drafted high and actually have a shot somewhere? And
I think it depends on tape. Honestly,
yeah.
I think tape's going to be his big thing this year. If he has a year where he throws for 4,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 10 picks, I would go pro.
Yeah.
I mean, those are great numbers. I don't think he's going to throw that much this year, but again, we don't know with the new OCs. But
Well, with the stable of running backs that they had, so it's Highshaw, right? That's the
Yeah.
number 2. Okay.
Yeah, he's great.
Neal and Highshaw, like that was a great 1-2 punch, and I'm sure Grimes is going to come in there and he's licking his chops, because with that zone running, like the outside zone, that could be scary.
Yeah.
You can get that going.
Yeah, they have such a good mix of players. Arnold and Skinner and Graham all coming back. But both tight ends aren't. So that would be another thing to kind of look at to see who can.
Tight end's a question mark.
Yeah, the Fairchild was good, and then the guy who I felt like has been there since Mangino, Jared Casey. I think he was a senior. He's the guy that's like in all the Applebee's commercials, I think. I think he was a senior last year, so that's something that hopefully they got
Was
another
he the
tight end.
one that made the catch against Texas?
Yeah,
Okay.
and he looks like a fullback.
Okay. Well, I honestly thought he was a fullback.
He
a
kind
tight
of
end.
mixes. They list him as a tight end, but he's kind of Tyler. He's kind of like a Blake Bell for the Chiefs, where they list him at tight end, but he really blocks more, and they'll put him at fullback sometimes.
So he's a legend. Is what you're saying? Okay.
Yeah, he's a legend. Hey, he is a KU legend, actually. Casey is a KU legend because of that catch.
so he plays more of an H-back role there.
Yeah.
But I think he's gone. So that's something they did. Like, again, this was Bean last year, where he doesn't have a huge arm. He did kind of rely on the tight ends a lot. But again, we lost our two main tight ends, so that'd be something to kind of monitor.
Okay.
You don't need to have a huge arm to win games, though. Just got to be accurate, and you got to
Really, I mean, look at JJ McCarthy last year.
Yeah,
Duncan King on that one.
Back to the draft question. I mean, quickly, Sanders obviously is getting a lot of hype just because of his last name. We'll see how he plays next year. Under the huge spotlight, honestly.
Will Howard.
Who is he going to be an NFL guy?
I don't know. I mean, if Ohio State's going all in this year, and actually this is something I was going to bring up here at some point, but they just tried to poach DeMarco Murray away from OU.
I read that today.
Because they ran their
Running back coach out of town.
out of town. Yeah, he went to Michigan. He said, "Okay, I'll go to Michigan."
Oh no, I saw
Yeah, he
that.
swapped. He swapped.
I
Yeah, he
saw that,
swapped.
yeah.
He went to
big
Michigan, and he's like, "All right, you want to run me out? Fine, I'll go to Michigan."
Mm-hmm.
And he was at Notre Dame under Kelly, and then he went over to Ohio State. When Urban got there, and then he's like, "All right, I'll go to Michigan. I don't care.
Right.
Run me out of here. I don't care."
That's hilarious that he did that. That was last week, right? Where I was cracking
Yes.
up.
Yeah, that was big time.
The thing that shocks me the most right now with Ohio State is that they haven't gone after Scott Frost only because Chip and Scott have that history back at Oregon. I'm surprised it hasn't happened yet. I'm really shocked. And I think that if I was Scott and I got a phone call from Chip just to be a running back coach at Ohio State, I might take that job.
Shit, yeah.
With the way that room is with Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson and all the guys they have back there, that would be a dream job.
But the thing with
I
Ohio
agree.
State is it seems so volatile. It's either they're going to go all in and they're going to win the national championship, or it falls apart at the seams and then everybody's left there to deal with the mess.
It's going to fall apart at the seams, in my opinion.
You think?
I think it will. They have all that talent.
The pressure is
said it,
so high.
and we've said it before. We don't know if all these kids are going to play together.
It's
If
true.
they're going to gel. because once you start getting all these egos into one room, they're going to start clashing. And is Day going to be able to stand there and be like, dude, you guys need to calm down and just play together, play for each other, play for the brotherhood? Is that going to happen? We don't know.
Well, Beal's a closet Michigan fan, so he's all right with it.
Yeah, I hate
let him fall apart.
Yeah, let him fall apart. That's for our boy Taylor. Me and Tyler have a friend named Taylor. He's a huge Michigan fan. So go blue.
Go blue. No, but the running back coach making the move from Ohio State to Michigan, I love that.
That's a slap in the face right there. I love it.
This is what makes college football so fun. Is just like the amount of hatred that's got to be pouring out of Ohio State fans right now, seeing that guy move. And if Michigan beats him again, like, oh my God.
Well, if Michigan
it's not like they kept Harbaugh either. So
No.
he left to go with another coach, Moore.
with Sharon Moore, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not like he left to go with Harbaugh. I get that, right?
Right.
He went
Mike
with-
Hart end up going to the Chargers with Harbaugh, or did he go somewhere else?
Man, I loved Mike Hart in college. I loved that team with him and
Like
Henny.
07.
But look what he did with that running back room the past couple of years with Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards. Oh my God, that 1-2 punch right there, so good.
As a Chiefs fan, I hope he didn't follow him. Again, they didn't sign Eckler, so I don't even know who the Chargers running backs are. Gus Edwards, I think now.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
So I hope he didn't leave to go. He's a legend there. I mean, but who knows? I mean,
It says, I've seen something here. It says he will not return in 2024.
It's probably because Harbaugh's not there, and I think he wanted to play for Harbaugh, coach for Harbaugh. Sorry, I think that's what that is. I have no idea.
I don't know. I mean, I think Michigan's still set up to do well. I mean, we talked about it. Like, will they be back in the national championship? Probably not, but
They'll be in the playoff for sure.
oh, for sure. Yeah.
hunt. Yeah, they'll be in the hunt. Well, I guess, yeah, now 12 teams. Yeah, of course. Yeah, they'll be in the playoff.
Yeah, they'll be there. They'll be there.
I just went back to my default. Only 4 teams get in. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean but it's been that way for so long that we're kind of programmed that way, and they're like, oh crap, we're at 12 now. So yeah, they'll be there.
We were kind of talking about realignment a little bit ago, Beal, but okay, it really seems like there's just 2 power conferences and then everything else now. Do you see KU potentially down the line going to the Big Ten, or the Big Ten bolstering itself up enough to where it could consider itself on par with the SEC or the Big Ten?
I want to hear what the Big Ten guy says first in this.
Okay, Joe.
I think for Kansas, it would be very beneficial for them
If they could make the
if they
jump.
could get to the Big Ten. Only because I know there's little bit of things that I do know with like media rights and sharing that money. They take all of that money and they spread it evenly across all the teams. It's not like when the Big 12 had the Longhorn network and they're like, oh, we'll give everybody the same amount of money, and Texas took 75% of that and everybody else got scraps. Everybody gets the same amount of that there. For football, it would be great just because you would see the blue bloods of that with the Nebraska again. I would love to see that rivalry again. You'd see it with Michigan. You'd see them play Ohio State. You'd see them play USC, UCLA. Those would be
Well, and there's
really
still
good games.
regional games, right? You still have Iowa. You still have Nebraska. Illinois is not too far.
I think they'd be great games. And then you talk about basketball, a whole nother level with Indiana, Indiana, even Michigan when they're good, they suck.
Michigan State,
Yeah,
Purdue.
Michigan State, all of that. It makes so much sense to pull a KU in there over a K-State.
Well, I was going to say,
K-State would be left behind, I think. But
Yes.
do you
KU's
think
basketball
KU
brand makes them so attractive?
Yeah, I mean it's it's one of the only college basketball brands that makes money.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And
North
and
Carolina,
think
Kentucky, Kansas.
But even think about the legendary matchups that could come from that whole thing with Indiana being a blue blood of the Big Ten and Michigan State. I would love to watch those games.
Mm-hmm.
It only,
Right, me too.
It only bolsters the basketball side of the whole thing. And they'll even push their football portfolio above too, where I think they would start spending more NIL money on the players to come in there to just be able to compete with the Michigans and the Ohio States and the Penn States of the world. It just makes a lot of sense to me.
So if it gets announced tomorrow, hey, KU, because sometimes it comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, of course.
KU is going to the Big Ten. Is Big Ten Nation going to be like, oh my gosh, like, because again, they're so more football centric.
Yeah.
Are they going to be like, oh my gosh, like what? Like, is this they don't belong, or is it because we've have Lance and obviously the basketball? Like, oh, okay, that's okay. Like, what do you think Big Ten Nation would think? Because I agree with everything you said. Like, of course, I would run to the Big Ten tomorrow, but I'm a KU fan. But what would Big Ten say?
To be honest with you, I think it would be the same thing when Nebraska joined. They'd be very hesitant because they're very stubborn with everybody that was there. Look at before Nebraska jumped in, and then the Marylands and the Rutgers and everybody else. The last team that was added in there was Penn State, and that was in like 92, I think.
Yep, early 90s.
So you're looking at bringing KU in, and it will be a rough road if that were to happen, because it was for Nebraska for a very long time. But I also think with the way it is set up now, people would be more open-armed to it. They're not as stubborn, I don't think, anymore. I mean, Tony Petitti's the commissioner there, and he's got all this TV experience, and he's going to be able to get KU on bigger stages at prime times during the season, whether it's football, even college baseball or basketball, any of that stuff. I think that I think they're more open to it now, since you've got the UCLAs, the USCs, the Oregon, the Washington coming in right now.
Right.
Right, because it'd be a completely different answer if it was 5-6 years ago.
Of course, today. I would say if you were to ask me this 5-6 years ago, I would say to a KU fan or even the university, stay away right now.
Right,
because the landscape of the whole thing was truly based around the Blue Bloods in Michigan and Ohio State. If you didn't have really those guys saying, "Yeah, sure, bring them in," it never happened. And now you're starting
to football was then too.
Well, true, but you would be bringing them in for basketball at that point. But right. It still goes back to the football conversation that I think that they would be able to get better players by just joining and affiliating themselves into the Big Ten, because they're a pretty good academic school, right? And that's a big thing for the Big Ten as well too, because Nebraska was thinking about going back to the Big 12, and all the professors were like, absolutely not. From an academic standpoint, we are so much better in the Big 10 than we would be in the Big 12.
Did it increase enrollment?
Yeah, I think they're, what do they call it? An AAU school. Didn't Nebraska lose that?
Yeah, Nebraska's not an AAU school. They're working to get it back, but I think there's a few other brands in the Big 10 that don't have that affiliation either. Yeah. So.
And KU is one. I think there's a very few, and again, I'm not one of these KU, like my dad would say, oh, KU is, Harvard of the Midwest, but yeah, I'm not like that. KU's, not a great school. It's fine. But they do have that AAU, and that's why the rumors have kind of always been like, would they ever go to the Big Ten? And no one's saying that about, Oklahoma State.
No, yeah, because Oklahoma State doesn't make any sense to come to the Big Ten. Iowa State does, though. Yeah. And Iowa State, the three teams to me that make a lot of sense to bring in are the KU, the Iowa State, and Notre Dame. Those are the three schools that make so much sense geographically. But I don't think Notre Dame's going to play ball. They'd rather be an independent team and just do their thing and do whatever they want.
It'd be stupid for them to do it.
I hate that. I really hate that.
With the expanded playoff, it gives them less incentive to actually join a conference.
And teams, we were talking earlier about Florida State coming to the Big Ten. I don't think they're a fit in the Big Ten. I just don't. Just from where they are, not because it's geographically, I just don't think that they fit. It's a football fit, but it's not an overall like school fit because their basketball team is so up and down. They're good in baseball, but are they any good in women's volleyball?
I guess that's a Big Ten thing, right?
You know, that's a Big Ten thing because if you look at the big schools there, it's the Wisconsins, Nebraska, Penn State. That's
Those are
the big hitters there. That, you know, do they compete in that? What about wrestling? Do they do well in wrestling there? Because you got Iowa, you got Nebraska, you got Wisconsin, you have. There's another one I'm blanking on. I think Rutgers is pretty good wrestling school too, but like, are they going to be able to compete in all those other sports? If it's just football, it makes no sense.
Why Iowa State though? I don't see them at all. I see they're more of a level of K-State than KU.
Iowa State brings a little bit more to the table from the other sports that they do. They are a wrestling school.
They are.
They're really good in basketball right now.
true.
Under Otzelberger.
Just won the Big 12
Yeah.
tournament.
Right. They're a rival to Iowa. They've played Nebraska is a big rival to them too. These are just, I mean, those are just, of course, you know, normal stuff geographically, but they're a really good academic school.
I didn't know that.
They are.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
They're really good with academics, you know, and they have that little pocket in Ames where there's just so much going on there, but nobody ever fucking knows about it, you know? And I think getting into the Big Ten for them would be a big thing.
Be a big thing.
I'd rather poach Arizona than Iowa State. Someone like that if I was the Big Ten.
Well, we had talked about, you know, like having a Big Ten Southwest with like Arizona and Arizona State and like Texas Tech with, you know, the
Utah
you know, with those schools kind of in that area, you know, if they were to ever break off and do, you know, like subdivisions inside of the whole thing. But I don't know about Arizona now that Jed Fish has been gone. I don't know if that would be a good move, but basketball would make a lot of sense there too. But with Jed Fish going to Washington and Brett Brennan coming in, I don't know.
Actually,
I don't know how.
I take it back because they're in like so much. I just remember that they're in like so much trouble. They like mismanaged their money.
Yeah.
And I think they're in like a lot of trouble right now. And they don't have as much money as they thought they did. And I think that's why Jed left. I mean, obviously he left for a great job, but
He's Missouri's athletic director, so I love him for that.
yeah, and she's going there to kind of clean it up. But they're in like a lot of trouble. But that's the rumors, I think. So let's play the game. Notre Dame doesn't count.
Okay.
You're two. Big Ten can pick two. Would your two be Kansas and Iowa State of everyone else? You don't have to say Kansas just because I'm on here.
No. KU would be one of them though. It would be,
That basketball program alone is
for me personally, it's either KU's definitely, it's either North Carolina or it's Miami.
Tyler, if you're the Big Ten, what about you?
I agree with Joe where I think KU makes sense geographically. They've got a really good football program. And I feel like their football team's on the up and up. And they are making, we've talked about this before, you know, earlier, that they're making a commitment to the football program. They're upgrading the stadium. And I know it's been a long time since they've done such a thing, but it is showing their commitment now. And if they can keep Lance there, like, who knows? So yeah, I think KU.
That's also where the Big Ten money helps from the TV stuff to help with all that too.
I think KU makes a lot of sense, and if I was the Big Ten, they would definitely be on my radar. I think I'd probably have to go North Carolina over the U
for basketball too. That
Right.
That would
They're
be
a sleeping giant. And,
yes, they are.
And their alumni is huge.
Yeah.
I mean, they're a huge school and they have a lot of money and they're great academically.
They got Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
I mean, James Worthy, you know, like you could go down the list of like big time basketball players that came through there, you know, Rasheed Wallace and all those guys. But
Julius
Vince
Peppers.
Carter, yeah, a million.
I mean, yeah. I mean, Peppers had a great career in the NFL.
Yeah.
But like,
Mitch Trubisky.
oh God. One good year and he gets drafted second overall and he's just garbage. Jesus. But yeah, I mean those are the two teams those are the two teams I would want. KU for sure, in North Carolina or even Miami I would be okay with. Miami is purely a football thing and a baseball thing, but I just think if you're smart, you go after those schools.
I mean, you're like the best basketball conference.
Yeah, and you up your portfolio in basketball and even baseball, because North Carolina is a good baseball school too. So
there definitely would be like my number one pick. North Carolina, sleeping giant, a lot of money.
yeah.
My
And
number
loyal
two,
following across the country too. Like
huge.
they're everywhere.
Huge. Yeah, it's kind of like UCLA, where you know you'll be walking in Minneapolis, you'll see UCLA, someone in a UCLA thing, just because they're, you know, they have cool colors. People buy them just because they're cool colors, right? Same with North Carolina.
Yeah, I have a Tar Heel blue hat in my closet at home. I won't lie about that.
Oh, I had Tar Heel stuff growing up because of MJ.
Yeah.
And then Roy Williams left to go there, and I was pissed.
We hate Sean May.
Well,
Yeah.
yes, they lost Roy, but I also think KU lucked out by getting Self. You know, when he was a big up and comer coming out of Illinois at that point, and he did really, really well at Illinois, but he did so much better. He's done so much better at KU.
What about
Yeah, I think he has 2 championships at KU, and Roy has 3 at North Carolina.
Yeah, but
Self always beat him in the tournament, though.
Exactly. That's the thing, is Bill always beat him. But the other thing too, Roy never won a championship at KU. He only won his championships at Carolina. Right. So it's hard to sit here and say that losing Roy was was a bad thing when you got probably a better coach at the university and he won you 3 titles already.
Right. He was old. We got a younger person.
Yeah, of course.
So at least 5. I'm kind of scared about his health, Bill Self, because of what happened last year with his heart. But
I think his nose hurts a little bit.
I think it worked out for
I've
both
always
teams.
made the comparison that like Bob Stoops and Bill Self were like, Bill Self is the Bob Stoops of like college or like, you know, the Big 12, you know, and vice versa. It's like they run that conference. You're going to have to beat OU and, you know, football or, you know, Bob Stoops to win that conference. Same thing with KU and basketball.
And another good example is like people right now, if you say, hey, who are the best coaches? And you ask someone, let's say in, you know, Phoenix, who are the best? Calipari, Tom Izzo. It would take like 3 or 4 names to get to Bill Self usually. And the same thing always happened with Bob Stoops. You know, they'd say, you know, Mac Brown or, you know, whoever coaches Ohio State. Oh yeah, Bob Stoops. Like people just kind of take him for granted, like Bill Self.
Yeah.
But they're both a model consistency of just like, yeah, we just quietly win our conference every year.
Where just with that, like that got me thinking, where would you say a Matt Campbell is on that list from Iowa State?
Like, where is he ranked with coaches?
Yeah, ranked with coaches. Only, I mean, they kind of take that one for granted too.
Definitely. Big 12 has a lot of good coaches.
Of course they do. Like with Kyle Whittingham, he's
the best coach in the league.
Lyman.
Yeah. I mean, you got Malzahn down at Central Florida. You know, he's no slouch. He's done well. He's had some failed stops, but he's still a good football coach.
Yeah, and like you said earlier, Joey McGuire was a great hire for Tech.
Yeah.
You know, like I said earlier, I'm not giving up on the Baylor guy.
Aranda.
Yeah, they're gonna be. I wonder what I might go there over this year, just because, like, hey, I think you might be better than.
Yeah, it's possible.
I mean, the Big 12 will be chaos this year, I think. I mean, I do think that Utah is going to probably run through it, but like the teams underneath them
Part of the problem is there's too many like teams in the Big 12 this year. There's too much clutter, and you honestly, I'm going to say this: you need a Willie Fritz to kind of pull Houston out of that muck and kind of push them towards the top. That would be a great storyline, and it also would be great for the Big 12 to have that happen.
I mean, they could. That's a great, like, if you talk about a program in a great location,
Oh, yeah.
hotbed of talent.
Oh yeah,
Houston could very well be a team that just like makes a huge jump.
or even Neil Brown at West Virginia.
Yeah.
Tyler, if you gave me, okay, I'm Big Ten commissioner, and you gave me 4 teams, Houston would be one of them. Not because I'm looking
Of course, yeah,
this
100%.
year. It's because I'm looking 5 years because of everything you just said. They're another sleeping giant. They have so much money there, and they're the third or fourth biggest city in the United States. I mean, they're going to be good in a couple of years.
And
it was such a good idea to get them.
Texas recruiting.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. No, it would.
So who would your 4 teams be if you were the Big Ten commissioner?
North Carolina, Kansas, Houston, Clemson.
Ooh,
That's interesting.
Clemson fit though.
I think Clemson's more of an SEC team,
I
though.
agree.
But if you're just, okay, you get to go, the question was not who fits where,
Yeah,
right?
I get you.
Just go out. Because, again, it's still the South. It would be between Clemson or Florida State. I would still say Clemson.
How much Dabo would be driving Big Ten fans crazy.
Love to see it.
We'd love to see it.
And they're going to get it, like, after Dabo leaves, they're going to get they're a good program. Like, they weren't bad before Dabo.
Right.
They're always going to, they also have money. That's a good college. Like, they're going to be a good, they're going to be okay.
We remember
right?
CJ Spiller, all right?
Yeah.
Jeez. He was
Jacoby Ford.
That was your NCAA team, I remember.
Yeah, I loved that Clemson team. Like 2008, 2009. I don't even know. I forgot who their coach was.
Or their quarterback. Who was their quarterback?
Hunter. Something. I think his name was Hunter. Something. He didn't go pro. I forgot his name. He was like an okay quarterback.
He was the guy right before.
Taj Boyd, I think.
Yeah, Boyd. Yeah. That wasn't Dabo.
No, it wasn't Dabo. It was.
He was on that staff though. What was his name?
Look it up.
Was that
It's someone
Terry
that.
Bowden?
Yeah, it was Terry Bowden. I was like, it's someone that has a name. Yeah, it was Terry Bowden. I think that sounds right.
That's the only name that I could think of because it was kind of that transition from Terry Bowden into Dabo, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
And they were good. I mean, they've always been a good program, Clemson.
Yeah, they've been competitive. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and if you give them a good coach, you can win a championship there. And how many places can you say that about in college football? 10?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that's why they would be one of the 4.
What would your thoughts be if Duke was one of those schools?
I would say you're crazy. 5,000 people go there.
Right.
Durham's not a good city. Obviously great basketball. But I don't. It wouldn't be. They wouldn't even be in my top 10, honestly.
Okay, that's just a thought because they are a very high academic standard of a school. You already have that in Northwestern, but if you could get 2 of those schools, that would really bolster the academic profile of your conference.
Are they putting? I mean, maybe. And again, ignorance on my part. Where are they? The alumni, and there's very few of them. And again, with the NIL, that's something I'm looking at, right? That's why I wanted Houston there.
Of course.
Are they putting their money into the NIL? I mean, they're getting a lot of good basketball recruits still. Are they going to do that with football too?
I don't think they're throwing it at football. I think they're throwing it at basketball. But
it's a bit of football now.
Yeah.
There's just not many alumni you can get to put money to be competitive for 10, 15 years and around and play against the Big Ten schools. I mean, I don't know. I can't. I don't see it.
What about Georgia Tech?
They're another sleeping giant, but they're obsessed with like their academics, and I think it's kind of hard to.
But it's a Big Ten.
It's in Atlanta too. It's a big market.
You're kind of sticking your foot in the, like, hey, we're in the South now, SEC.
Yeah.
But I think it's hard for them. I think you have to meet an academic. You have to have good academics to go there.
Oh, okay. So you're saying that like recruiting,
It'd be hard.
Yeah.
It's like Vanderbilt.
Yeah, or Stanford or Cal.
Yeah.
They otherwise, because there were rumors that could Dion leave and go to Georgia, like when he was coaching, and
he's not going to Georgia. He's not going to Georgia Tech.
Yeah, Jackson State. When he was coaching Jackson State, people were like, "Oh, could he go to Georgia Tech? It'd be perfect."
Well, they said Bill O'Brien was going to go there too at one point because he had coached there back in the day, but he's at Boston College now, and he's probably at the right place for him.
Bring the Lobson back, you cowards.
Oh my God. It worked.
3 years ago, Alex would have been okay with that at KU. Been like, let's just try anything.
Let's just do the counter option. That's us. The triple option.
Yeah. Bring us Paul Johnson after Les Miles. Who cares? Anybody?
Yeah.
Lance who?
Yeah. Yeah, but Lance Who has done a really good job there, so I would say it's a big thing there. What made you a KU fan other than, growing up in the Kansas City area?
When I went to KU, had too much fun, had to move back to Kansas City.
There we go.
I was the 5th generation Jayhawk. My whole family went to KU. Both my mom, my dad, 3 of the 4 of my grandparents, literally all my aunts and uncles that are blood related to me, besides one, because he went to UMKC for their med. So it's just ingrained in me.
Nice.
And my brother went to there. So I'm literally the only one. I went to UMKC. I'm one of the only ones in my family that didn't go there or didn't get a degree there.
Right on.
Well, okay. I feel like we need to bring this up too, right?
Yeah.
With realignment, you've seen rivalries kind of go away. Will KU and MU start playing each other again in football?
I think it'll happen.
It has.
They're already doing it. They're already doing it in basketball.
Did it last year?
Yeah, it had in Nebraska with Oklahoma, and there's another one.
Nebraska and Colorado.
I mean, not by A&M's choice, but yeah.
I don't want to talk A&M right now.
Oh.
Yeah, too soon. Too soon.
Yeah,
talk about it
that's too. We're going to talk about it. That's too soon, but everything that I've heard, it was probably the university's fault. So
no, not having a president.
Yeah, not having a president, but the regents don't make it any easier. Like usually when a president is named, they pick their regents who they want because they're like-minded, but in the state of Nebraska, they're all elected officials. So everybody wants something different. They're down to 2 people, but they're all split on those 2 people that they want. So they can't make their minds up, so he's just like, we're in an ever moving, evolving climate that's moving really, really fast. We need somebody in charge here. And they're just kind of dragging their feet a little bit. And I
feel like we need to just go ahead and elaborate. We're talking about Trev Alberts.
Trev Alberts, yeah.
The athletic director there leaving for A&M.
Yeah. But they also were saying it wasn't everything that I've heard too is they were like, it's not too big of a shock if he were to take a, private sector CEO job, at a big corporation. I would say that A&M is kind of a private, corporation with all the oil money that they're digging up and throwing into that university.
Yep, most Colts are private. You're right.
Yeah, so I don't know.
We were talking about this because you're saying it. Yeah, I know Rule has come out and said, "Hey, I'm not going anywhere." But it's got to make you feel less comfortable about him staying.
Oh, it does. Oh, it does 100%. I told you we lost all loyalty from him at this point because he came to Nebraska for Ted Carter, who went to Ohio State, for Trev Alberts, who went to A&M. If Elko has a couple bad years here and there down there. Exactly. And I don't see where he's going to say no. But his son is going to the University of Nebraska now. So it's one of those things where you're like, is he going to wait 4 years and then skip out of town like he's done everywhere else? If he was smart, and I told you this the other day too, he'd stay exactly where he is, win all those games, and work his way up into the university and be an AD, move up to president, and do that. He would be a damn legend if he did that.
Beal, what do you think on it? All right, so like Trev Alberts, lineman there at Nebraska,
linebacker,
80s, 90s,
linebacker from I think 91 to 94.
Okay.
Or
So,
90,
this is
90
the
to
guy
94.
that played there, been the athletic director there for
3 years.
3 years.
Yep. And he was 9 years at University of Nebraska Omaha, one of their offshoot universities.
So
And a really high draft pick.
Cornhusker,
Yes.
like through and through. It's hard. If I was a Nebraska fan, I would feel backstabbed. I would feel like some sort of like he's a traitor,
Yeah, I'd be pissed.
especially in where he went to. Like I would
Yeah.
lose my mind if an OU guy went to Texas A&M.
Yeah, I'd be pissed.
I'm not
really-
happy. I'll tell you that.
And it's crazy that A&M and Nebraska are playing women's and men's against each other this weekend.
I mean, yeah, the media's doing their job, making sure that. Oh, I say media. The guys in suits that are putting those games together knew what they were doing.
Yeah, they said, "Hold my beer, watch this." Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
It's crazy. Yeah, I'd be pissed. I mean, I couldn't imagine because he's a legend. I mean, it's someone I know who he is. I'm not a Nebraska fan.
Yeah.
I know Trev Alberts, obviously.
Yeah, if you go to Lincoln, you see his name on the wall up there, and everyone's like, "Take his name off the wall." I'm like, "Hold on, guys. Like, let's actually be practical about the situation, right? Does it suck that he left? Absolutely. Is it great? No, it's not great. After you've been preaching loyalty and all that, and you just turn around and you leave. But he did that as the athletic director. He did not do that as a player. His legacy as a player, yes, it should be there, but his legacy at the university itself is tarnished. But as a player and as the AD, they're two different things. Right. As a player, you won all these awards for the university. You helped them to a national title. You helped them bring that program into relevance in the mid 90s there. You can't take what he did as an athletic director and crumble up what he did as a player and throw it out the window. It's not the same thing.
Yeah,
It's just
apples and oranges.
Yes. And I just get tired of hearing like all these, like once it happened, I would watch all these videos and everyone's like, well, he's a traitor and all that. And I'm like, man, you could say that about any coach that decides to leave the university. You could say that about Roy Williams leaving KU basketball, going to North Carolina, even if the writing was on the wall for that one.
I still don't talk about Lincoln Riley. All right.
Right. Like dipping out on OU going to SC. I mean, it's the same thing. It's like people are really quick to judge, but maybe just maybe the next guy that they bring in will be better than Trev.
Yeah,
we don't know that.
Self.
Well, I was going to say, is there a short list on who could possibly be the next lead there?
Well, Jamie Pollard at Iowa State is on that list, and everybody that talks about Jamie Pollard loves Jamie Pollard. He's a likable guy. He can, do everything that the university needs him to do with
Matt Campbell build what Iowa State's got going on.
with, crowdsourcing and, getting into the philanthropy and all that stuff. He can do all that. Trev did a really great job there, but Jamie might actually be a step above because he's done it at a Power 5 university for a lot longer.
And a smaller time school.
Exactly. Put him with a big school and let's see what happens.
Seemed to make two good hires if he hired both the two guys they have now.
Yeah. And the other thing too is I think they have to get the president situation figured out before you go and get an AD.
Is there a time?
That's a problem.
Yeah, that That because if you bring in an AD before you bring in the president and the AD may not get along and clash. If you bring the president in, let them hire their AD that they're comfortable with, that university will probably hum at a different level if you were to do that in that move. But the problem you're running into is if you guys can't make your mind up on who's going to be your president, nobody's going to come to take that job, and no one's going to stick around for longer than 3 years because you have to play the political game of the whole thing just to get, a stadium renovation project done.
And you know what never works in the NFL when there's an opening for a GM and a head coach is when the owner hires the head coach before the GM.
Absolutely.
You have to hire the GM first.
Yep. Absolutely.
And you can hire the coach too. The owner can do it without the GM, but you cannot hire the coach before the GM. So exactly what you just said.
You can't. You have to go top down, because it's got to flow that way. Because if you don't, the fans are going to be so upset. The product isn't going to be good because there's so much gray area and there's no continuity between anybody.
Well, I mean, whoever it is going to look out in getting a great football coach there with Rule.
They're going to have to do a really good sell job to keep him, though.
Sure.
I really believe that. The big name I would love to see take over that athletic department, because I think Rule would have a really good relationship with him, would be the volleyball coach, John Cook.
Okay.
Because they had been positioning, they've been, trying to get him to take that for a long time. They wanted him to take that before Alberts. And he said, no, he didn't want to give up. He didn't want to give up doing women's volleyball, but now he may want to with the way everything is changing.
Yeah, and he has to be a legend there, right? All what they're doing up there in volleyball, so not the stadium.
Well, yeah, I mean, you look at the national titles that he's put on that wall. I mean, it's just like Tom Osborne taking over as the AD before Sean Eichhorst and moving Nebraska into the Big Ten. Like it would move a needle like that. It would give us some credibility that we're still building within the roots of our programs, that we're trying to get somebody to stick here for 15, 20 years. And you may have the opportunity to be the AD. You may have the opportunity to be the president. Every time you go outside of the walls and get somebody like that, like when they hired Eichhorst, he fired Bo Pelini after a 9-win season, and he went and got Mike Riley, who had one good year with the Pelini recruits and then did garbage after that.
How old is the volleyball coach?
I think he's in his 60s.
Yeah, so that'd be I thought he was older, right? That would be the only thing to kind of scare me.
But even for an AD, though, he might be late 50s, early 60s, but at the same time, I would say his experience, like even just building that program and building the athletic department, that if he were to take that, would be a beneficial step for him.
I mean, they need someone that come in there and provide stability. But like you said, if presidents where they have to start, then they do that first.
Yeah.
Have they discussed it like a timetable when that might happen?
No, they have two candidates. One's at the University Med Center. He's like the president of that they want to bring him up to do the whole school thing. Mm-hmm. They have a guy that's the interim that was with Ted Carter and Chris Kabarek. And he's not even a candidate, but he's doing a fantastic job in that role right now, which makes you scratch your head a little bit, is why aren't you looking his way if he's doing a good job?
Wait, did they hire a new, sorry to interrupt you, but did they hire a new AD today?
No.
Troy Dannon?
Who?
Troy Dannon?
I have no idea.
Wow.
Did they?
Nebraska's finalizing a 6-year deal to make Washington athletic director Troy Dannon as the school's new director.
Wow.
Oh,
13 hours ago.
Pete Thamel, sorry.
Oh, wow. I did not see that.
No, none of us did. It's no one's fault. I was just Googling to try to find the age of the volleyball coach. And it popped right up. That seems to be a great hire, man.
Yeah, actually
That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully he does well, but it also makes you wonder if they're starting to look over at someone else's direction, if they're going to hire somebody right now, because Kabarik pulled that trigger on that one, he hired him.
So
Maybe
he went from
just
Tulane to Washington. He was only at Washington a year, but he was at Tulane for 8 years. And I mean, Tulane, they have a pretty good team now.
Tulane was a respectable.
because he hired Willie Fritz probably. If he hired Willie Fritz, he knows the landscape of like good coaching and everything, and he could be a guy that could sell Rule to stick around and be there for a while. I hope that's the case.
Like, hey, we just went to the national championship with the Bauer. Like, hey, we can do it here too.
Yeah, possible. Very possible. Who knows?
Yeah, that's crazy. That's that's awesome.
Yeah, I was hoping it'd be Cook, but maybe he's not done coaching yet. Maybe he's just going to retire at the end when he's done, But I also look at that volleyball program when he goes to kind of take a giant dip because he was the heart and soul of that.
Yeah, legend.
It's hard to replace the legend.
It is.
It's like Pat Summitt at Tennessee.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Who's the gal that was at Baylor for the basketball coach and then went to
Kim something?
Yeah.
She's I forgot her last name. Kim something, I think, right? She the LSU coach?
Yeah.
Yeah, Kim Mulkey.
Yes.
But I will say this. So clearly Nebraska is looking at that athletic director job as we're bolstering the football.
Of course.
Yeah, like that is.
Yes.
Yeah.
That has to be something that Rule was like, go talk to this guy.
Yeah. So you think potentially Rule picked him?
I think it's a possibility.
Okay.
I think Rule. I mean, if I was Rule, I'd be like, you want me to stay? This is who I want.
Right. We need to be serious about this.
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt that they don't suck at basketball this year either.
Well, that's true. That's true.
Surprising because that's big time news, and I
didn't see it either.
Anything about.
I didn't see it today either. I just saw it. We all saw it. We all heard it at the same time.
Yeah,
That's breaking news from billionaire
Pete Thamel. I can't believe we all missed that. I mean, we're all pretty locked in on stuff.
Yeah. But I also didn't think it was going to happen until after the president was named. I was waiting because they had their life skill guy who basically helps the kids. They get these kids on campus and he gets these kids to stay eligible all the way through their whole time. And they had him being the interim guy, but I don't know.
It seemed pretty quick. That's a quick hire for an AD. When did Trev leave? Last week?
Last week. But it also makes you wonder if they had an idea that this was going to happen, that they already started putting feelers out.
Right.
Because he had gone down the Saturday before he pulled the trigger to A&M, and I'm sure they started putting their feelers out at that point. They knew he wasn't happy, and he probably told them he was looking, and they were looking at the same time. So
yeah, because the A&M guy went to Ohio State, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he's lucked himself into a lot of different jobs, and he's not really that good of an AD at the same time.
Lane Kiffin of
he just lucks himself in, and it's just we'll see what he does. We'll see if he can pull the trigger on a Ryan Day if he has to. That'll be the big thing.
Well, Tyler, edit out those 20 minutes when we didn't know about the AD place. Thank you.
I want people to hear the news coming across, our reactions to it. That's gold.
We don't edit a whole lot out of these episodes, just so you know.
If anyone is listening, the last one, I am incredibly sorry about all the audio interference that we were having. We were trying a little bit of a different setup and did not hear that until after, but it sounds like this one's going a lot better so far. I have not heard any interference this time around.
Yeah.
Since we have you on with the KU stuff, big news with Nebraska, but is there anything popping with KU football news-wise?
not this time of year. Everyone's focused on the tournament.
Yeah.
Well,
Their leading scorers not playing. McCuller.
since we had you on before the tournament, how are we feeling about the Jayhawks? With the,
Pretty pessimistic. I mean, their leading scorer isn't playing. He announced he's not going to play, Kevin McCuller. And they just look bad. I mean, this is the worst team. This might be the worst team.
They look really bad in the Big 12 tournament.
Yeah, and
I think I saw somewhere.
McCuller were out.
I saw somewhere too where Dickinson wasn't going to be playing.
Yeah, he dislocated his shoulder, but he announced today that he is going to play tomorrow.
Football player right there.
Yeah. But there, again, McCuller was great. He was the leading scorer for KU. He's a wing. Got him from Texas Tech, senior, and that's kind of more. You remember when we were talking about Jalen Daniels? Like, was he hurt? Was he not? This is what's actually happened with McCuller. Is he hurt? Is he not? And those are all rumors coming today because he put like a lengthy notes app explaining, no, I actually am hurt. This is why, and it just kind of looked fishy. Mm-hmm. And he hasn't played the last couple weeks. So I'm not very optimistic. I'd be shocked if we made it to the second weekend. If they win, they would play Gonzaga. Whoever
Samford in the first round. Has KU lost to Samford?
No, they've lost to Stanford when they had Wiggins and Embiid in the second round, but not Samford. I don't know if we've ever played them. I know we haven't. I don't think
all the first round. Like I know Bucknell.
And Bradley.
It was the Bees. Okay.
Yeah. Back to back. Bill Self's first 2 years, I think.
Good luck to him. Obviously, OU did not make it. Nebraska's in it.
They're in. I filled out 2 brackets and I got Nebraska beating A&M.
Beal has invited us to his if we want to do it.
Okay.
I'll send you the link if you're interested.
Trev Albert's revenge game. I am betting so much on Nebraska. I love their best player. That guy's the
Tominaga?
Shooter. Yeah, he is amazing. I was so awesome. Mad that they were an 8 seed. I was hoping that they'd maybe be like a 7, so they didn't have to.
If they would have won one more game in the Big 10 tournament, they would have been a 6.
Yeah, I wanted them to be higher because I don't like the fact that if they beat A&M, they have to play a 1 seed. I think who would it be?
Which region are they?
I forgot.
I think they're UConn, Houston. I think they play. I think they would play Houston. Don't quote me on that, but so I don't think they can beat them. But yeah, they're a fun team to watch.
Anything is possible. That's for sure.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
it would be Houston.
Okay, that's what
I mean. They did beat Purdue on home court this year when they were number 1 in the whole country. So they could beat a 1 seed.
Sure. Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, it's March, right?
Yeah. No one knows. I mean,
Purdue
they could be the Cinderella team and go all the way to the Final Four this year. We don't know.
And they have a perfect storyline with Trev Alberts, and they have a perfect guy who can be like, oh my gosh, this is like Steph Curry breakout. Oh my gosh, a shooter. He can shoot from anywhere.
Yeah, but they're saying that they don't think Tominaga is an NBA player and that he's going to be more of a like playing in leagues in Japan.
Yeah.
But I mean,
it's working out for Nebraska right now, though.
I don't care. Let the kid play.
Yeah, I didn't even hear about him until this year.
He was on the fence of coming back this year, and I think Fred talked him into coming back and running it back for one more year to make that run, and he said sure. So
that's awesome. Yeah, Tyler, you got to watch that game. I don't know what time they play, but
Tominaga's
this guy's amazing.
He's taking half-court threes and nailing them.
He's like Caitlin Clark. He really is like Caitlin Clark. Yeah. It's like insane. Yeah.
I'll have to check. I mean, yeah. I was listening to the radio today. I always listen to like an OU sports station, but they were saying, top sports days of the year.
March.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
It has to be like one of the top sports days of the year.
Yeah. It's the whole weekend, the whole first round, first 2 rounds are the big ones. And then no one really cares after that. I mean, they do and they don't.
They do, but it's not as exciting as the first 2 rounds. Yeah.
Yeah. My fiance's bachelorette party is this weekend, and I told her to do it this weekend because it's the best 4 days of the year.
Yes. Yes.
I was like, get out of the house, Sarah.
She'll come home and you're buried underneath the pile of beer cans.
Yeah.
Right on, man. This has been fun.
It's been great.
We will definitely have to do this again, Beal. A lot of insight on KU. Wish them the best of luck this year. I do think that they have quite the chance to make some noise. I mean, if you're looking at potentially the third best team in the Big 12, there's a shooter's chance at them taking it. So
Yeah, I still think they're the second. That's just me.
or second, yeah. I mean,
Yeah, we're all kind of
Close.
close on that, but they're definitely towards the top.
Yep. Sounds like everyone likes 8.5 over. So let's do that.
give me over.
And thanks for having me on, guys. I mean, you guys have a
yeah.
great podcast, and good luck with everything in the future. Happy to be back on anytime, and you guys are doing great.
Yeah, thank you, much appreciated, man.
Sure. We'll see you guys later.
All right, well, thank you everybody for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.